Well, hey y'all, welcome to Tuesday Leadership Tips with Lita. Thank you for your patience on this afternoon. It has been a really busy day. It is now 4 minutes past the hour that we start our time together, and I'm excited to be here. I hope that you all are as well. Come on in. Welcome on YouTube. Welcome on IG. Welcome on the TikTok platform. Welcome to this Tuesday's Leadership Tips with Lita. I am Lita, your business partner for leadership growth, leadership development, leadership, ultimately success. Welcome to our time together. I'm excited and happy to be here. I am just so elated at the responses that we are getting from this time that we've been spending together concerning legacy and the various things that we have talked about along the way. I am excited at the growth. I am excited at the time that we spend together, even if no one says a word. The fact that you keep showing up says to me that something we're doing is working, something we're doing is helping and adding value in the leadership space. And I'm glad about it. All right, y'all. So, this is just by way of announcements, and I'll probably say it again towards the end of our time together, that this is our last Tuesday for the month of August. We talked about it early on that we'd be doing just the first and the second Tuesdays of the month of August. So after today, I won't see you all again until the second Tuesday, in September, which will be September 8th. And I know I'm going to miss y'all, but this time that we'll be apart, hopefully that will be time that you'll take full advantage of to be able to sit in what we've been talking about, apply some of the things that we've been talking about so that we are setting ourselves up for success in this time that we are sharing together. All right. So today's leadership tip is this: stay faithful even when it costs you. Stay faithful even when it costs you. And this is something that I know is real. We all get faced with some choice, if you will, some decision to make that will either stay in alignment with our values or send us off on the wrong path and going the wrong direction. This thing that we're going to have a conversation about today, I think, is so critical to maintaining, to stewarding, to being a faithful person as it relates to your business, your vision, your life. This is actually the leadership test that nobody applauds, but everybody eventually sees. People might not say a word about the 1,000 things that you did right, but it's that one thing. If you miss it, they'll cancel out all the right, all the good, all the things that you did well. And we talked about this last week, how legacy, that's not the ultimate goal, that faithfulness is. We talked about that last week, but faithfulness sounds real inspiring until it costs you something. It sounds real good when even when I say it, it sounds real good when you say it, but wait till it costs you something. Because it's easy to be faithful when people agree with you. It's easy to be faithful when the numbers are growing, when the opportunity is exciting, when you're being recognized. It's easy to be faithful in those times when everything seems to be working and going the way you want it to go. Isn't that right? It's easy to be faithful in those times, but what happens when doing the right thing costs you? It could cost you an opportunity. It can cost you a relationship. It can cost you popularity, comfort, money, recognition. What happens when doing the right thing costs you the thing that you thought if you did right, you'd get it? What happens then? See, that's when faithfulness moves from something that we just say to something that our leadership actually proves. And today's conversation is about helping us develop leaders who don't abandon their values when those values become inconvenient. That's what we ultimately want. We don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater, if you will. We don't want to get rid of what grounded us from the beginning, because sometimes the greatest leadership victory isn't gaining something. And I know we all want to gain something out of the hard work that we do, out of the labor that we put in. But sometimes that greatest victory is not gaining something or gaining more. The victory is refusing to lose yourself to get it. That's the real victory, y'all. That you don't lose yourself to get what you've been chasing. So let's talk about the cost a little bit. Let's talk about that. Let me ask you a question first. What's your leadership really worth if your values disappear when the stakes get high? What's your leadership really worth if your values, you throw them out because the stakes are high? What is it really worth? And everybody has standards when standards are convenient. We all do. When we're in a good space and a good place and everything's working, we all have standards. Everybody has integrity when integrity is rewarded. We talk about character when character isn't costing us anything. Lord have mercy. I said that and I meant what I said. Lord have mercy. Because listen, we can talk about the character as long as it's not costing us anything. But eventually, leadership will put something you want on one side and then something you value on the other side. I said, eventually, leadership will put something you want on one side and something you value on the other. And you'll have to choose. You'll have to choose whether you want what you want or whether you're going to stick with what's valuable. So this is just a quick check. Quick check. If you could finish this sentence, what would you finish it with? I will not sacrifice blank just to become successful. What would you put it? Put it in the chat real quick. What would you say in the blank of this statement? I will not sacrifice this just to become more successful. Drop it in the comments. I can say a whole lot of things for myself. And like I said, we say it, we talk about it, it sounds good until it actually costs us something. But if there are some things that you would not sacrifice, just one thing, what's that one thing that you simply will not compromise, you will not sacrifice just to become successful? It could be integrity, family, health, faith, character, peace. Peace is probably at the one or two for me on my list, but I'm not willing to sacrifice my peace just to be successful. And this is the thing, leaders. You got to know the answer before the opportunity arrives. You got to know what you're going to put in that blank before the opportunity arrives. And we're going to talk about it a little bit later, that if you don't know what you won't sacrifice, eventually in the moment may make you sacrifice what you thought in your head that you wouldn't sacrifice. And this is what I know about opportunities, about things that come up. Faithfulness will eventually require a no. Faithfulness will eventually require you to say, no, I'm going to have to say no to that. We love talking about opportunities, don't we, leaders? We love talking about the open doors, the growth, the expansion. We love talking about the next level. Let's level up. We love talking about that. But maturity isn't only knowing when to say yes. We must also have the courage to say no when yes violates our values. We got to have the courage, and if we're just being real about it, sometimes we don't know what we'll do in the moment. Sometimes we will say yes without even thinking about it, because our focus is on the opportunity and not necessarily remembering your values. And this is why we need to know the answer so that in real time we can answer the way we've already said in our head, the way we've already written in our vision, in our values. We got to be able to say no when it violates that. Some opportunities aren't advancement. Some of them are really distractions, wearing business clothes. Some partners are not strategic. Sometimes they're expensive compromises. Sometimes doors that open aren't meant to be walked through simply because somebody opened them. Here is a leadership fact. Every door that's open is not your door. Every door that somebody comes to you and said, hey, come in over here, partner with me on that. Every door that's open, or every open door, is not your door. And I know, especially sometimes when you're starting out and you're starting to see a little movement, you're starting to see progress, you're starting to get the bag. Sometimes it can be tempting because you see all the open doors that you want to go through as many as you can, but every open door is not your door. And before you say yes, ask yourself a real question. A different kind of question. Ask yourself, does the opportunity align with who I am becoming? That's a real thing in my life, because I know that I am becoming still. Every day, all of us are changing, we're growing, we are evolving, we are becoming who we saw, envisioned we would be, who we prayed we would be, who we know just within ourselves that we will eventually become. Does it align with who you are becoming? Or does it require you to become someone that you don't want to be? I've seen it, and some of you may have as well, many times, where people who are in certain industries, and they talk about how when they first started out, and they said, if I had known I would have had to sacrifice this and that and the other, then I probably wouldn't have done it, or I would have came about it a different way. And we have this awesome opportunity right now, leaders, to make a decision about what we will and will not compromise. We have this awesome moment in time to already make up your mind about what you won't compromise, what you won't sacrifice. So when the time comes, when the opportunity presents itself, you can ask yourself the question, does it align with who I'm becoming? Or does it require me to be somebody I never wanted to be? That's a different kind of question. And this is for a leader who says, I'm here to do what I'm created to do. I'm a leader and I want to do the best I can at it. And I want to show up the best. And even as you are becoming and even as you are evolving, you are the kind of leader that says, I'm not just going to show up any kind of way and I'm not going to compromise and become something that I'm not. So I'm determining now, this is what I'm not going to sacrifice. This is what I'm not going to compromise. Because we cannot afford to trade long-term trust for short-term winning. I don't care what the win is. If the win jeopardizes the trust that you have built for the people you are leading, it's not worth it. The price is too high. And leaders, pressure can sometimes, if you're not careful, if you don't go ahead and establish what you will and will not do, if you don't make up your mind now, and I don't mean just in your head, sometimes you got to write it, put it in front of you, look at it. Sometimes pressure can make leaders dangerously short-sighted. And when you become dangerously short-sighted, you'll start making decisions that are outside of the parameters and the boundaries that you set for yourself. And you'll begin to sacrifice the values that got you where you are. So don't let, when the numbers are down, or when expectations are high, or when competitors are winning, or when the deadline is approaching, to allow yourself to become so short-sighted that you sacrifice your values. Because the temptation will become to just do what it takes. And sometimes that's what leaders do in order to make things happen. But we, transformational leaders, those who have integrity, we say no. And we say we are going to do what it takes without becoming someone that we can't respect after it's done. Because this is what I know, one shortcut, just one shortcut can destroy your credibility. One shortcut can. One dishonest decision can undermine years of trust. One ego-driven reaction can damage a relationship you spent years building. That's why it's important that we align ourselves with our values, we remember our why, and we don't sacrifice when things aren't going the way we want them to. Because we never want to win the moment and lose the mission. Some victories are simply too expensive. It's too expensive. Faithfulness. I want to share this with you before our time comes to an end. But faithfulness sometimes looks like staying when leaving would be easier. And I want to clarify this because I don't want anybody to think I'm talking about any particular thing outside of leadership and business. But listen, your faithfulness sometimes will look like staying when leaving would be easier. Now, here's the other side. Sometimes faithfulness means saying no, but sometimes faithfulness means staying committed, staying disciplined, staying patient, staying teachable, staying engaged when you're tired of waiting for the results you've been working on for years or months or however long you've been working on it. Not every difficult decision is a sign that it's time to leave. And sometimes you're uncomfortable, not because it won't work, but because you're being stretched. And we talked about this on one of my lives some time back. Sometimes we are being stretched because there is a difference between something being wrong for you and something being hard for you. Two different things. And as leaders, we have to develop enough discernment to know the difference. Yes, we will have some things that we say no to because it's just wrong for us. But then there are other things that just because it's hard doesn't mean that you quit, doesn't mean that you leave. So we got to ask ourselves, are we being released or are we simply being tested? If you leave every time leadership becomes difficult, if we jump ship every time it gets difficult, you'll keep starting things you never stay long enough to finish. And you'll never know what the outcome will be because you don't finish it. Don't leave just because it's difficult. Ask yourself, am I being released or am I simply being tested? And you'll find out that if you start something and it's good and you get tested along the way, but you stay long enough to finish it, you'll start seeing the results of the hard work that you've done. There is a scripture in the Bible that says, don't get weary in well doing, because in due season, you'll reap if you don't give up, if you don't lose heart. So sometimes we got to stay because we've been stretched. We got to stay because it's not finished. And we got to stay because you have a result that's right at the end of you staying, right at the end of you persevering, right at the end of you showing up every time. You just keep showing up, keep showing up until you see a difference, until you see the change, until you start seeing that vision begin to take shape and come to fruition. Faithfulness, y'all, it requires courage without applause. Sometimes you're going to get no one to say, great job, no one to like your content, no one to say, that was good, no one to say, I appreciate all that you've done. You know, I've been watching you, and because you held on, I held on. Sometimes you'll get none of that. And this is one of the hardest parts of leadership. Sometimes you'll make the right decision and nobody will celebrate it. Sometimes you'll make the very best decision, the right and the best one, and nobody will celebrate it. And sometimes you hear people say, I heard this a lot in years past, where they would say, I guess you got to mess up to move up. And listen to me, that's not the way you want to go. That's not the way you want to go. You want to be that one that says, whether anybody claps for me or not, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to make the best decision for all involved. And that means sometimes you're going to protect someone who never knows that you defended them. Sometimes you're going to turn down money that nobody knows that you were offered. Sometimes you're going to refuse to compromise when compromise would be easier. Sometimes leaders, we're going to have to give somebody else credit. Sometimes we're going to have to apologize first. I just want y'all to sit in it for a minute. Sometimes we're going to have to do all the things. And I'm saying this now because I wasn't necessarily taught these things coming up as a leader. I wasn't taught, hey, expect some days that nobody's going to acknowledge you. Expect some days when even the people over you would take full credit and you get no acknowledgement at all. Some days you're going to have to choose integrity privately, and no one will know that you made the single best decision of your life because you upheld your integrity. There will be no post, no trophy, no standing ovation. No, it'll just be character. And that's enough. I want to encourage somebody that when nobody else is watching, God is. He sees and he knows. You just stay true to your values. Because that character, that's who you remain when there's no audience to reward you for it. And if you maintain your character, who can take that from you? Don't get addicted or even seeking and searching for visible recognition for invisible integrity. Sometimes you just got to live it, but somebody's watching you. The people you lead are watching you. The people you walk with are watching you. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes that's the game changer for someone else. Sometimes someone will make the right decision because they watched you closely. They watched your integrity. They watched you keep showing up even when things looked like they were folding. They watched you stay faithful even when things looked like the best decision would be is just to give it all up. Somebody is watching your faithfulness. Somebody's watching your faithfulness. Even when nobody says, hey, you really inspire me. If nobody says a word, know that your integrity, your faithfulness is shining brighter than people are saying. This next part I want to share with you is, I think, so critical. It's critical to not only identifying the thing that you won't sacrifice, but you also need to know what your non-negotiables are. If you don't define your non-negotiables before the pressure shows up, pressure will define them for you. That's how sometimes leaders will make hasty decisions without consulting those, their circle, or not praying about it. If you pray about your decisions and not getting some advice about it, if you don't know what your non-negotiables are right now, when pressure shows up, pressures just might define it for you. We all need a personal leadership line. By that, I mean, you have a line that you draw in the sand. Like, for example, I will go this far, but I will not cross this. You have to have a line in the sand that you won't cross. Your non-negotiable, you have to determine what that is based upon your values. But it could be something simple as I'll tell the truth even when the truth is uncomfortable. I won't sacrifice the people I lead for performance. I won't compromise my character for access. Sometimes it could be, I'll admit when I'm wrong. I'll admit I was wrong. Sometimes it could be, I honor my commitments. And this one I think is it's important to me, and I keep this one kind of close hold, that I protect my physical, my emotional, and my spiritual health. I gotta protect that. I have to make sure that my values and my daily disciplines I keep intact, and I continue to do them, because my physical, my emotional, my mental, my spiritual health is extremely important to how I show up as a leader. So, whatever your values are, sometimes you may have to say, I won't get arrogant just because I have a lot of influence. And then another hand is, you could say, I'll remain teachable. And all of us as leaders should be continual learners. Your standards can not only exist in your head, leaders, because in a real time moment, the pressure might cause you to choose something different. It can't just be in your head. Name them, write them, live them. Name them, write them, live them. And if you get this ingrained, not just in your head, in your heart, on paper, or whatever you put in front of you, on your iPad, on your MacBook, something to put in front of you, that every day you're reminded, these are my values. This is how I'll live them out. This is what I won't compromise. I'll go this far, but I won't cross this line. This has to be something that you develop for your individual leadership. I know we look at, people that we glean from, that we learn from, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I encourage that. But when everybody else is gone, what does Lita have in place? How will she handle this? Will she sacrifice? Will she compromise? Or will she stand 10 toes down, standing on business, as we say? Because there is a shift, ladies and gentlemen. We got to shift from success questions to faithfulness questions. Sometimes we get so intoxicated with trying to be successful that we forget that faithfulness is the goal. You can evaluate decisions by saying, "Will this make me successful?" That's the way some might say. But a better question is it aligned with my values? Is it ethical? Is it sustainable? Does it honor the people I'm responsible for? That's next level leadership that goes past just wanting success. If nobody ever applauds the decision you made, is it still the right decision? That's leadership maturity. That if nobody applauds my decision, if it was the right decision, I'm sticking with it. And again, sometimes people won't applaud, y'all. They won't even acknowledge. But you stay true to you, stay true to your values, stay true to the God that you serve, so that when situations arise, because they will, things will happen, things won't happen, things will have to get condensed, revamped, mixed up, and represented. Things will happen. But the mature leader says, whatever decision I make, if it's the right decision, I'm sticking with it. I'm sticking with it. So listen, y'all. This This Tuesday, I want to kind of give you some homework. Some homework so when we meet back up September 8th, that we will have some things worked out and hopefully even practiced during the time that we have apart and away from TLT with Lita, that we'll be able to, get some things realigned for some and aligned for others. But complete these statements, and I'll put it in the description of this live. Again, on TikTok, you'll have to go to my IG channel to see it there, and also you can go on the YouTube channel. But listen, the first statement is, I will remain faithful to blank. Name the value, the responsibility, the relationship, or the assignment that matters. I will remain faithful to blank. The second statement is, I will no longer compromise blank, whatever it is. Identify the boundary. Identify that thing that you've allowed to pressure you to move. Identify it. And then say, I will no longer compromise this. And the third question is, even if it costs me blank, I will still blank. This is where conviction gets real. I always say this to you all: be true to you, be honest with you. Because when everybody else leaves and there's no one else around, you can look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? I was true to me. I did the thing. I stayed true to my values. I stayed true to the things I said I wouldn't compromise, that I wouldn't lose my integrity over, that I wouldn't sacrifice. So again, those three statements are, I will remain faithful to blank. I will no longer compromise blank. Even if it costs me blank, I will still blank. Be true to you. And then ask yourself, what would change in your leadership if you stop negotiating with what you already know matters? What would change? And if you're brave enough, drop it in the comments of the live that if you made this change, if you stop negotiating whatever it is, how would your leadership change? And so listen, y'all. Listen, leaders. Anybody can be committed to commitment, if you will, when it's convenient. But transformational leadership, which is what we are, requires something a little deeper. Be faithful when you're celebrated. Be faithful when you're overlooked. Be faithful when the opportunities come and when saying no costs you. Be faithful when growth is happening quickly. I'm not sure what is going on here. Be faithful when growth is happening, when it's happening real fast. And then be faithful when progress seems painfully slow, when nothing is happening. Keep showing up. Be faithful when people understand your decision and when they don't, because everybody won't always understand your decision. But you have to know within yourself it was the right decision. Because at the end of your leadership journey, the question isn't simply how much did you accomplish? It's also Who did I become while accomplishing it? So don't build a successful career and lose your character. Don't build influence and lose your humility. We're going to talk about humility one of these Tuesdays. Don't build a platform and lose your purpose. Don't build a legacy and lose yourself. Build boldly, lead courageously, stay grounded. Stay grounded in your why, stay grounded in your values. And when faithfulness just happens to cost you something, pay the price. Because some things are simply worth more than success. They just are. All right, y'all. I have so enjoyed our time together today. If you all have questions or something you want to leave, like I said, go to my IG page or even the YouTube channel and drop your comments there, drop your thoughts there. I would love to read them. And listen, stay faithful, even when it costs you. All right, y'all. It has been amazing. You all enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. And again, I'll see you September 8th. Don't forget to do the homework. All right, y'all. Until next time, peace.